Tell me, viewer, do you pronounce this enemy's name as Lakitu or do you say Lakitu? Well, congratulations, no matter which one of those you say, you're wrong. It's Lakitu, as can be heard in the Super Mario Bros. Wonder Direct from almost 2 years ago. But how to pronounce this little guy's name is not what I'm here to talk about, even if that too was effectively a mystery for literal decades. Now the real mystery about Lakitu's name is where the hell it comes from and what it means. We know Mario's name comes from Mario Segale, the owner of the warehouse Nintendo of America used for their headquarters, and we know Pauline is named after Paulie James, the wife of Don James, whose name Nintendo of America president Minoru Arakawa misheard as Pauline. But for Lakitu, we have absolutely no clue. Well, that's also not entirely correct. There are some theories, there are some leads, and there are some potential clues, but there has never been a definitive answer to the question, where did Lakitu get his name? Let's start at the beginning. Lakitu is part of the original group of Mario enemies that was introduced in Super Mario Bros. On NES. It's a select group, and plenty of enemies who you could consider arguably even more iconic and recognizable than Lakitu, like Boos or Bob-ombs, aren't in it. So it can be hard to forget that Lakitu is basically as old as a Mario enemy can be. Most enemies introduced in this game have names mentioned in the manual that are quite clearly simply derived from English terms like Koopa Troopa, Bullet Bill, Piranha Plant and Buzzy Beetle. Some less obvious ones like Goomba also get their name from English words, making Lakitu immediately a huge outlier. Simply based on how most Super Mario Bros. Enemies got their name, Lakitu's name should be based on an English term of some kind, but I'm not even a native English speaker and even I know that isn't the case. While the name may sound Japanese, in fact, I'm pretty sure the wrong pronunciation of Lakitu comes from a desire to pronounce it in a Japanese manner, Lakitu isn't used in Japanese, nor does it mean anything. Over there, this guy is known as Jugemu, which is actually the complete opposite of the English name in a way, because while we are left guessing where the hell our name came from, the Japanese name actually has a really nice, rich and unmistakable origin. Jugemu is a very well-known Japanese folktale, a rakugo to be exact, which is a form of spoken entertainment. I guess you could kinda compare it to a comedian of sorts, thus making Jugemu a comedic routine in a way. To summarize, this story is about a couple who have a child but cannot decide on the name, and so give him a comedically long name that starts with Jugemu twice, and then continues with another 20 words, which takes about half a minute to say in full, so I won't bother you with it. Anyway, this story then continues with how Jugemu ends up hitting some other kid on the head, causing a bump. But then when the kid tells the teacher, by the time he's done saying the name of the perpetrator, the bump has already healed. Hilarious stuff. And the reason why Lakitu is called Jugemu in Japanese. Although, I can't tell why exactly this name was chosen, perhaps someone was just reminded of it from its design or whatever, but at the very least we know what Jugemu is and where it comes from. One theory I do want to bring forward is that Jugemu literally means limitless life, which may be a reference to how Lakitu is very hard to defeat, especially in the original Super Mario Bros. Also worth mentioning is that the original Japanese name for spiny eggs was Paipo, which is one of the 20 names Jugemu has in the story. Anyway, unfortunately, we do not have such a story in the West, so localizing this name apparently proved quite difficult, as you might imagine. While it cannot be entirely ruled out, it also doesn't appear likely that Lakitu is a transliteration of the Japanese name. Jugemu and Lakitu do sound vaguely similar, and there is some more speculative evidence to support this possibly being the origin, such as the fact lava bubbles were called Podoboos in Super Mario Bros., which is a transliteration of their Japanese name, as well as the fact that Chinese does use a transliteration of Jugemu to refer to this enemy with the term Zugaimu. This would make Chinese unique as the only language in the world that uses a transliteration of the Japanese name, assuming of course that Lakitu isn't one. Also interesting is the name this enemy has in Korean. His name here is Gimsu Hanmu, which is neither a transliteration or completely random. This is just good localization really. Just like Japan, Korea also has a story about a kid with a ridiculously long name, and here his name starts with, you guessed it, Gimsu Hanmu, before then continuing with who knows how much more. Now, I do think it's worth pointing out that due to historic reasons, Nintendo properties have always struggled to get a foot in the door in Korea on account of them being Japanese, meaning that this name was only established in the early 2010s, and not during the Super Mario Bros. Years of the mid-80s. As such, while a great name, it doesn't say too much about what Nintendo of America's process was when bringing Super Mario Bros. To Western audiences all the way back. So then, what did they do? Well, if you expected me to solve this 40-year-old mystery in a 10-minute YouTube video, I apologize for leading you on, cause I can't. There is no known factual answer to where Lakitu's name comes from. However, I have scoured every corner of the internet looking for theories and have resurfaced several that I think hold at the very least some ground. Especially when you keep in mind that some jumbling of letters, creative liberties and other random stuff must have played a role in the creation of the name, since Lakitu really does not mean anything when taken literally. The first theory is one I've already kinda tackled, so I'll keep it short. The idea that it's a rough transliteration of Jugamu. The syllables do roughly match up. Jugamu, Lakitu. And there is the precedent of the Chinese transliteration, as well as the fact Super Mario Bros. Contains another rough transliteration, that of Baberu to Podoboo. It's not out of the question that Lakitu is simply Jugamu with some more letters and sounds swapped around than is really necessary. Another theory that has seen some occasional mention is that the name is derived or inspired, whatever you want to call it, from the solfège, a method of teaching music skills. Or, how you probably know it better, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. The last 3 syllables of this scale, la, ti, do, could, with a bit of imagination, have led to the name Lakitu, especially when you mispronounce the last syllables, not do, but do, latidu. Again, this theory relies on the random jumbling of letters, which makes everything feel unbelievable, but it's basically a fact that Lakitu's name consists at least to some degree of pure random stuff that sounded right at the time. So the idea that this is the 3 syllables that localization team started with that eventually became Lakitu is not completely out of the question for me. What does make it less likely though, for me, is the why. Why would the solfège serve as the inspiration for Lakitu's name? It has nothing to do with music. I guess you could argue that since it's high in the sky, it fits the last 3 syllables, which are the highest ones, but that's very circumstantial. A theory that especially in recent years gained quite some notoriety, to the point I've even seen some people say the mystery has been solved, as if this is 100% fact, is a name origin that actually ties into another that I mentioned all the way back in my intro. So remember Mario Segale, the owner of the warehouse Nintendo of America used? That warehouse was located in Tukwila, Washington. And wouldn't you know it, Lakitu is an anagram of Tukwila. You've only got a W left over. While that does sound more like coincidence than fact to me, there is quite some precedent for characters around this time to be named after folks in and around Nintendo of America, from Mario to Pauline to also Kirby for example. And even more niche stuff received this treatment too, like the western version of Killer Instinct for SNES, where they called Chief Thunder's special move Samamish, after Lake Samamish, which is right next to Nintendo of America's office. It would make Lakitu the only Mario enemy to get this treatment, but it can be ruled out. And like I said, it actually gained quite some steam recently when James Montagna, a game designer at WayForward, best known for the Shantae series, brought this up on Twitter in response to a tweet from Super Mario Bros. About this exact topic back in 2023. Well, it's not like WayForward or James Montagna have ever worked on a Mario game. It is noteworthy that in this year they worked directly with Nintendo for the first time on Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp. Now, based on the wording of Montagna's tweet, I think he mostly means he has heard this theory in the same way I did, on the internet. But the fact that an actual game designer with a Nintendo property under his belt brought it forward caused many people to suddenly consider this to be fact. Hell, I came across a Resetera forum post where someone linked this tweet and called it the happiest moment of his life. I mean, the user is now banned, so it's possible even the forum mods thought he went too far with that one, but either way, it highlights how what is effectively just an old theory somehow became the leading one, despite zero actual additional evidence to support it. And then there's the fourth theory, which would be a bit of a letdown, as well as one we would probably never get confirmed if it's true. And that is the idea that it truly is a random combination of 6 letters, put together because they rolled off the tongue in a nice way. We've all made dumb, nonsensical words in our youth, or in this case, later life, and if not a single piece of concrete evidence for a potential name has surfaced in nearly 40 years, then yeah, maybe the explanation is truly as unfun and lame as I just made it up. It would be a little disappointing, especially compared to how interesting the origin of Lakitu's Japanese name is, but hey, if it's true, it is what it is. And maybe, now that Lakitu appears to gradually be becoming a more respected member of the Mario cast, going as far as to be considered part of the outfit-getting main crew of Mario Kart World, we will one day get this question answered in a random website entry or interview or who knows. Only time will tell. But until then, I really want to know what you think the most likely origin of Lakitu's name is. Do you believe one of the bigger ones I mentioned, or do you have one of your own? Share it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on all my future Mario content coming up. For now, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.